I'm Janice Fiamengo of the University of Ottawa. My theme today is repressive tolerance, a paradoxical phrase at the heart of much campus politics today. That's not the phrase we hear, though. The buzz phrase on university campuses used to shame and exclude heretics is safe space. Whether protesting an abortion debate, an anti-feminist talk, or any discussion of race or Islam that doesn't toe the politically correct line, students and the administrators who kowtow to them evoke the ideal of the university as a safe space for marginalized students. In other words, a place where ideas that are hateful or intolerant or disturbing to the so-called marginalized are prohibited. Note that rider about marginalized students. There's no attempt to make the campus an intellectually safe space for all. If you're disturbed by the killing of unborn children, if you object to gay marriage, or if you love the Jewish state of Israel, university campuses are inevitably going to be uncomfortable places for you, and nobody in the higher echelons cares at all. The irony, of course, is that pro-life students, for example, really are marginalized at universities. Their views ruled impermissible on a regular basis, but you won't find many university presidents standing up for their right to an offense-free learning environment.
Hey, don't touch me! And she just pushed my sister as well. I don't care. Sorry. You're gonna hurt yourself. Don't touch me. Please go with. Don't take me. Okay, Trent, stop it.
At many Canadian universities, in fact, pro-life demonstrators are singled out for especially harsh treatment merely for showing what abortion looks like. Anyone who has spoken to the self-designated guardians of morality amidst the student body knows that the fight about safe spaces isn't really about safety at all, but about power. The so-called marginalized are a bold and belligerent lot who have been spectacularly successful in terrorizing their opposition with no cost to themselves. They regularly deface public property, prevent others from assembling, shout, harass, scream obscenities, and generally make a public nuisance of themselves, and in return are treated with kid gloves by campus security and university leaders who dare not even condemn their uncivil and often illegal behavior. They're play-acting vulnerability in order to bully others with impunity. The whole charade fueled by the ecstasy of their self-righteousness. And they are following a time-honored script, authored by that guru of the Frankfurt School, Herbert Marcuse, whose essay, Repressive Tolerance, should be required reading for anyone attempting to understand campus politics today. What campus feminists and other radicals learned from Marcuse was to pay lip service to tolerance for the oppressed, that is, while working actively to make sure that their ideological opponents are not tolerated at all. And this makes sense, after all. If you believe that you have the absolute truth and that your enemies are completely wrong, and that you live in a society of massive injustice, well, in that case, there's no good in tolerating error. It merely leads to more error and more mass injustice. The enemies must be liberated from their error and their damaging preconceptions. The damaging ideas need to be wiped out. Thus, it doesn't help to point out to these radicals that they are inhibiting freedom of expression. You see, they don't care, because freedom of expression is not a good for the feminists and their cultural Marxist allies. Power is the good, when it is in their hands, the power to suppress wrong ideas and to re-educate the masses.
We invite you to educate yourself.
I just wanted to listen to him.
Go on Google.
I just wanted to see who this guy is and what he's talking about. But now I can't get in.
Two of my friends committed suicide, and I want the peace of understanding why that happened.
What I have to ask on that, and I'll ask you, is why this space to talk about that? Feminism, for example, offers lots of spaces to talk about mental health issues, talk about depression, both in men, women, and people who don't identify within the binary.
It's not particularly shocking that young people, revolutionary students, get a big rush out of censoring others. Most of us would agree that there is in many of us that totalitarian desire to outlaw those we don't like. The mature among us recognize that it's a desire that should be resisted. That Puritan longing to burn heretics has always been most evident in the young. But what about the university administrators? Why can't they stand up to students, the student thought police, and say to them, this campus is not about safety, it's about learning. Deal with your issues elsewhere and come here ready to engage in intellectual combat. They should, but they can't. They can't because many of them are, it has to be said, moral cowards, and because at some level they believe in the students' rhetoric about social justice. Many of them were once campus radicals, or at least admirers of campus radicals, and they know that a significant number of their colleagues are hip young progressivists or aging hippies, many of whom find in social justice ideology a far more comforting source of meaning in their lives than their traditional disciplines offer them. The administrators may not feel strongly about the particular issue riling the students, whether it's transgender washroom rights or affirmative consent policies to prevent rape, but they are committed to the talk of safety for the marginalized. Far more, unfortunately, than to the pursuit of knowledge. And herein lies the real source of our malaise. The widespread collapse of commitment to the disinterested pursuit of knowledge just isn't sexy anymore. Very few academics even believe in such a thing. So-called knowledge is just power being expressed. And it's hard to keep on believing in knowledge in the face of such compelling abstractions as anti-racism or empowerment of sexual minorities. Who could oppose those in favor of cold facts? Ultimately, of course, every politically correct safe space will be found to be not safe enough, requiring yet another round of show trials, tearful apologies, and expulsions from the community of the just. And in the end, one can only hope it will ultimately become clear that safety can never be built on ignorance and lies. Until then, those of us who care about the core mission of the university can only watch its slow motion collapse with horrified disbelief.